Today is a very exciting webinar for 3 reasons, and those are the 3 main agenda topics. I am personally very excited for this webinar. Hierarchy in no-code tools is a very important topic and one that many people either don't fully understand how important it is, or glance over it, or realize later how important it was. Hierarchy really boils down to planning, and that proper planning can illuminate a lot of problems later. And so I'm really excited for Chaya Gutnick, who is the CEO of Skive, a no-code consulting agency that helps clients implement products, to talk about hierarchy and how to properly structure things, what mistakes to avoid, and so on. Chaya will introduce herself in just a moment. Our second agenda for today is Jon Darbyshire, CEO of SmartSuite, will be sharing really exciting recent product updates and future product updates that are coming to SmartSuite. These are really exciting announcements, and I think Jon plans to demo some of them. So really excited to see myself what those are. And the last piece is a live Q&A, which is, last time we did one was really fun, and we had a ton of great questions coming in. And so as we're going through the webinar, please prep your questions, write them down. And towards the end of the webinar, we're going to open up live Q&A, and Jon and Chaya will both be taking live questions. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Chaya to introduce herself and Skive, and let's get this webinar started.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Avi. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Chaya Gutnick, the CEO of Skive. We are a consulting firm that focuses on software, and specifically no-code and low-code software tools. We're very excited. We're a proud partner of SmartSuite and many other tools. And we help businesses when they need to choose the right no-code tool and then to get it set up right, which is what we're going to talk about today, which is really getting the foundation set up correctly so that later down the line, everything works the way it's intended.
Awesome. Thank you, Chaya. Jon, I'll let you do your quick introduction of yourself and SmartSuite, and then we're going to jump right in.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody joining this morning. My name is Jon Darbyshire, one of the co-founders of SmartSuite, the CEO. I love all things no code, and specifically, I love to work with customers every day as much as possible on the features that you deem are most important to you to solve the problems that you have around managing processes and projects. So that's what SmartSuite is all about. We're a work management platform that helps organizations manage any process or any project that you have on a single platform. We also provide some pretty heavy integration capabilities that if you have other tools that you like to work with, we try to make it as easy as possible for us to both send and receive data from those third-party products. And in part of the feature overview today, I'm going to focus on some of the hot topics that we've been hit with recently, which includes a lot of updates to automations. So I'll be demoing those towards the end. And I just want to say thank you to our co-host here, Chaya from Skive. Chaya is one of the leading no-code experts in the space. She's done hundreds of implementations across most of the no-code tools. So she brings a lot of expertise in how to actually get started with companies. We want to leave plenty of time for you to be asking questions in the chat that she'll be sure to answer towards the end if you have specific questions. Avi, back over to you.
Thank you, Jon. Excellent. I'm excited to jump right in. Just a few quick announcements. So first of all, I want to get started with sharing that we have a live discount going live in these very moments. The discount will be available throughout the webinar and a drop after the webinar. It is available for the first 50 people who redeem this offer, and it is for a 15% discount off of your first year subscription to SmartSuite. And so if you have not yet subscribed to SmartSuite, if you want to follow Chaya along as she's demoing within SmartSuite, sharing about hierarchy, go ahead and subscribe right now. The coupon code is going to be Skive Webinar 15 for a 15% discount. And again, that will only be available for the first 50 people who redeem this offer. I will tell you that there are well over 50 people just on this webinar right now. And so if you do want to take advantage of that, I highly recommend you go ahead and take advantage of that as we're getting started. I'd also love to hear where everyone is joining. And so as Chaya is jumping in, please let us know where you're joining from, what industry are you planning to use SmartSuite for, and how you plan on using SmartSuite for, and let's get to know each other in the chat. Without further ado, Chaya, please take it away.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you everybody who has joined. I'm really excited to share many things that I've learned over the many builds I've done over quite a few years. And so I just want to quickly give you an understanding of what I'm going to be going through in the next 15 to 20 minutes, so you know what to expect and you can follow along. I'm going to start actually out of SmartSuite, talking about what challenges people usually come up with when it's not set up correctly, and then talking about SmartSuite's hierarchy, the different levels that you have to set things up with, so that we have a background understanding before we actually get into the software itself. Once I go through that, I'm going to show you in the platform a setup that has a good amount of hierarchy, a setup that has too much hierarchy, and also explaining what a setup that has too little hierarchy would look like. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so you have a little visual to follow along with as I'm talking, because I know I'm a visual learner, so I want to help you guys out. So when people have too much hierarchy, software will become, these are the usual problems that come up when the hierarchy isn't set up correctly. In order to get the information you want, you have to click too many times. Either it's that there are too many apps, there are too many solutions. So sometimes there are even too many workspaces. So it's just like too many clicks to get to where you need to go. The second thing, and it's really similar to the first one, is that it's just harder to use. It's not set up in a way that flows, and therefore it becomes a lot harder for the users to actually use it. And the third, and what we find is most important to people at the management level, management or above, is that it becomes hard to get the reporting you want. When the structure is not set up correctly and you want to pull a report on something very specific, if it's not set up correctly, you have too much hierarchy, too little hierarchy, you're not going to actually be able to get the data you need to get. And that's the last things people find out usually when they've set it up wrong is, okay, they're doing all of this and then they try launching it and their users are like, it's too many clicks, it's too hard to use. And then the final thing they find is, okay, now we want to get reporting on what's happening, and they can't get what they're looking for. So let's talk about SmartSuite's hierarchy, and then we will go ahead and jump into SmartSuite itself and look at some solutions that have good amount of hierarchy, too much, and then too little. So in SmartSuite, we have the workspace level. The workspace is the highest. Most of you are not going to have more than one workspace in your setup. And I say the workspace should equal a company. Yes, maybe if you have multiple companies, there is a reason to have multiple workspaces. But if it's for one company, I have never really seen a good reason to have multiple workspaces. You also pay double, so you're paying per workspace, whatever payment plan you're on. And so having multiple workspaces should be considered like however many companies you have, that's how many workspaces you should have in SmartSuite. Now, the next level of hierarchy we have is a solution. So right when you log into SmartSuite, you see a bunch of those boxes, and those are your solutions. You can think of those solutions as departments. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer here that, of course, each of your businesses are extremely unique and have unique circumstances. And so these rules are generalized. They're going to apply to 80%, apply 80% of the time. But I will say there is 20% of the time where these rules do not apply, and you could potentially have things set up differently. So I do want you to keep that in mind as you're seeing my comparisons to the different levels of hierarchy. The solution is really like a department. You have a marketing department, you have a sales department, you have service delivery. Everybody's going to have different departments in their business. And that's what you should think of a solution as. Now, moving on to an app. So an app would be the type of items in that department. That's a little bit harder to describe, but if we go into project management, we would say, okay, we have projects, we have milestones, and then we have tasks. Those are the different types of items in that department, and therefore those need different apps. Fourth, we have views. So views are really powerful for ways that different people need to see things, because when, again, taking the project management example, when someone is doing the work, right? So someone is working on a specific project, they want a specific view, which is, okay, only my projects, only the tasks assigned to me, only the things I need to look at. while somebody maybe at the management perspective wants to see the things that they are managing. And then there might even be a higher level of someone who wants to see all the projects across everything. John, I saw you unmuted. Did you want to jump in here?
No, I'm fine. You can keep going.
Okay, perfect.
I think
perfect.
Avi did that.
Okay, got it. Okay, and then fifth, we've got custom fields. So custom fields are subtypes of the items. So that could be, taking the projects example, it would be that we have projects in different stages. And so we want a custom field for the stages or the statuses. We want a custom field to divide the items in an app in different ways. And like I said, before I jump into SmartSuite now, these are very much generalizations. Doesn't apply in every single case. Like I say, I believe it's 80-20. 80% of the time this stands. 20% of the time, there might be differences where there might be ways where you have multiple solutions per department. Or if, let's say, you're a company that has 5 really big clients, and each of those clients have 50 people working on those projects, you might be able to say, okay, each of those clients should be a solution. So there are arguments for other ways, and this is a generalization. Okay, now we're going to move into SmartSuite itself. So over here, what I have is a demo solution. This is for a real estate investment firm. They hold many properties and they want to know what stage this is just like managing the deals themselves. And so they want to know, what stage are we in? Is this a closed deal? Closed deals are ones we've owned. These are properties that we own. We're done with them. We're not doing any work on the buying end of the property. In a different solution, there is managing each property because we have tenants in each property and things like that. And that goes in a different, but this is a solution for the deals themselves. And you see the deals here. And then, so this is for the properties. So properties that we're negotiating, properties that we have an initial contract signed, and properties that are closed. Next, we have the entities. So different entities are owning each of these properties and different custom fields here. I'm going to go through all of this in a second. I just want to make sure you guys have an understanding of what this solution is doing. So these are the entities that own these properties, since the real estate investment firm owns the properties under many different entities, many different LLCs for tax purposes. Now here we also have an app for context. So these are different types of contexts that are related to these deals. Now, going back to the hierarchy discussion, which is that, okay, this is a department of our company. This is the department that manages the deals that are going on. And so that's why it's a solution. Now, when we look at the apps that I've chosen here, that we have properties. Now, I'm going to quickly switch over to here, and you can actually see this. I called real estate deal management too much. This means we've got a bit too much hierarchy here because we've actually divided each of the deals. Instead of using a custom field here, a status custom field, to divide the deals by stage or by status, we actually have separate apps for each of those with duplicate custom fields in all. So here you can see all the ones in initial negotiation, here in LOI signed, and here in closed. Now, the reason that this is less desirable is because you've got a lot more clicks to see what you need to see. You also have to manage all of these custom fields. So for example, let's say something changes or you come up with a new idea and you want a custom field to collect a specific type of document here. And now you want to add that custom field here. Let me just do attachment, files and images. And let's just call that contract. So let's say you decide you want to add it. You actually have to go now and add the custom field into all 3 of these because they're separate apps and it doesn't work like that. Now, when you go over here and you actually want to add a new field, you add it once and it's there. Additionally, here, when something moves from initial negotiation to LOI signed, it's a lot more clicks to actually move it from one app to the other. While here, you're really just able to switch that status. And so when you're looking at how many apps, I think most people do okay at workspace. I would say, let's say like 95% of people don't have too many workspaces, right? Then 85% of people don't have too many solutions. I find that when it comes to apps is like one of the biggest places that people have too many of. And so whenever you're designing something and you're thinking, okay, is this going to be a solution or is this going to be an app? You really want to think, does this need to be its own solution? Does it actually really belong in a different department in a solution that we already have? And if it's going to be an app, you want to think, is there a way for us to easily add it into an app that's already there? If I decided today that we have a new status, which is almost closed, I wouldn't want to add another app here. I would want to make sure to just add that status over here. And so whenever you're thinking to add an app, you want to think, is it the similar item type? Is it a contact? Then we want to just add a contact type. We want to add a custom field and do that. Also, views, really, this one doesn't have the ones I want to show, but views really are able to help when different people need to see different things. And I find sometimes people do an extra app for this. They're like, okay, let's pull data of this and this and put it in a separate app. While really you can do it in a separate view because the views allow you to group in different ways. They allow you to display different fields and filter by many different things. And so a lot of times an app can actually be a view instead of its own app. Now, you might be asking, when do I know that something should be its own app? Like now we're talking about, okay, how do we know when something shouldn't be its own app? When it should be its own app is when it has, custom fields, which are the columns. When it has a bunch of different types of columns, that's the answer that it has to be a separate app. Because there you can say, okay, let's just have one app. Let's have all properties, entities, and contacts in one app itself. And then we would have all the custom fields for properties, all the custom fields for entities, all the custom fields for contacts in one. Yes, we can create views that we have a bunch of contact views that only show the custom field for contacts, but then your view list does become unwieldy. And I know, John, I don't know if it's for this time, but I know that folders views are coming, which are definitely going to help with that aspect. But as a general rule, I would say that if the records that you're looking to add to an app, if they have very similar custom fields, they should generally go in the same app. If they have mostly different fields, they should be in their own app, because I think all of you can understand that if we had properties, entities, and contacts all in one app, it would become unwieldy to A, find what you wanted, but B, also get reporting on it. Because when you create reports, you want search and reports on properties that don't include anything to do with contacts. And that would be a general rule over there. I do want to flip back over here and show you that people can do the same thing for contacts over here, where when you look over here on the contacts tab, we have different types, which are, you can be an entity owner, you can be a seller contact, you can be a vendor, you can be a referral. Now, this is actually a multiple select field, meaning that someone can be a vendor and a seller contact, for example. So we can have multiple over here. If you were to choose to create different apps for each of these types of clients, aside from all the other issues that I brought up before, you can't have a multiple select, or you could have a multiple select, but then you have duplicate records. So if Jane is a buyer contact and Jane is a vendor, you would actually have records for Jane in both of these apps. And then again, when Jane's phone number changes, you actually have to change it in both apps. So rule of thumb about apps, a lot of similar custom fields use the same app. A lot of different custom fields use a different app. Now, going back to this one. So what I want to do is, Avi, are there any big questions before I go on to the last piece about custom fields and views?
Yeah, so actually two interesting questions just came in. I'll just throw them at you. So
Sure.
Connie is asking, is the best practice to use custom fields versus creating a separate app?
So I would say that if all the custom, meaning, let's just say over here, we're looking at the contacts. So we can choose to have a separate app like we have here, where we have entity owner, buyer, contact, vendor, and referral. Where here it's just a custom field. The reason that I believe for contacts this way is better is because the custom fields are very similar. No matter if they're an entity owner, a seller contact, a vendor, you want their email. No matter what type of contact they are, you want their phone number, you want their link, you want their title. And because of that, in this case, I think it does make sense to put it all in one app. But if you, let's say, are looking at entities and contacts, where if you look at the custom fields for entities, which is like company size, website, and then we have a link to property and entity owners, that wouldn't really fit to move to create custom fields for that, because I could do that, right? I could create one app called entities/contacts, have views for contacts, have views for entities, have all those mixed custom fields. But because there are so many different custom fields between entities and contacts, there isn't a lot of overlap, if at all. My recommendation would be to separate those. Does that answer?
Yeah, excellent. I know it's an interesting approach you're taking where I think you're laying down like very practical rules, right? If there's very different custom fields, you might want to throw it in a different app. From a SmartSuite, we always say from a more, I think from like on a higher level, we say key processes within a solution, components of that process within different apps. But I think you're giving to it even more of a super practical kind of way of thinking about it, right? If it's a completely different set of custom fields, you might want to throw it in a different app. But if it's similar different custom fields, it's just you can tag things like you're saying, right? You can have different types of contacts, different types of companies. I love it. Keep going.
Thank you. Was there a second question or we're good?
I think we'll leave it for afterwards.
Okay,
We've got quite a number of questions, but we'll leave it for the end.
Sounds good. Very good. Okay, so I'm headed back here to this properties. And I just want to point out that what we could do here is create a bunch of different views for who needs to see these. One view that I would very highly consider create is called My Deals. So this I would create to only show deals that I'm working on. And in this view, I would filter it by where we don't actually have an assignee field in this demo space, but I would filter it by only the ones I'm working. So this is a really good zoomed in. I'm working on these deals. Okay, what do I need to do for this deal today? Another view I would create would be deals I'm overseeing, which is for a management perspective. If there are 50 deals going on, your manager is probably overseeing 10 of them, and then there are 5 managers. So we would have a management view where we saw deals I'm overseeing. And then the last view, which is more similar to this one, is just all the deals. Where are they up to? Next step projected, probably when they're expected to close and things like that. And so really making sure to use your views. I happen to love views. So many different things you can do with them. And just thinking about, okay, so now we have properties, the properties that we have open deals with. What are the different views that different people in the company want to see? And SmartSuite is really phenomenal, better than I can say all the competitors at permissioning those views. So while in some other softwares, you're going to have a hard time giving permissions to those specific views, we can actually say that these deals, if the My Deals view, people can only see their deals. But let's say management can see very specific additional information. We can also have some financial information. We have, let's say, financial information that we wanted here, and we could actually hide those custom fields in specific views and not give people access to, let's say, sensitive financial data that we didn't want them to have access to. In that respect, the views are extremely powerful. The last level of hierarchy is custom fields. And I would look at, so there's obviously like custom fields that are used right now. I'm talking about custom fields from a hierarchy perspective. If you look at custom fields, there are a ton of custom fields, and not all of them are used for hierarchy. Like sometimes you just need a date in there, right? You need a text of what the name of this deal is or what the address is. Like an address custom field is, I can't think of an example that would be used for hierarchy. But things like single selects and multiple selects are very often, those are like, you can think of it as tags or folder. Like you can think of, let's say you have your files on your computer, you can put things in different folders. Multiple select actually allows you to put them in multiple folders. And so if you have something like contacts where all the custom fields are the same, but you still need to break them down a little bit more or even a lot more, single select and multiple select are really good at adding another layer of hierarchy, another way of filtering, because then when you want to get reports, like maybe you want to get search and reports on only properties that are in initial negotiation or only properties that are closed, that level of hierarchy, the status, the single select, the multiple select really allows you to have those additional layers within that app without having here almost using my entire taskbar, right? I could come up with more apps to add in here. And when you really don't want to use up all this space. And so you want to keep it as clean as possible and still as easy to use. Avi, do you have any questions? Do you want me to clarify anything further?
I'm going to take one question right now that I think is very related. And then there's a lot of questions that we're going to take after Jon does the demo. Frank is asking, a deal when one becomes a project. Is this two different apps, deals and projects, or is it one app with different views?
Okay, so, I would say the philosophical answer is that it depends. But if you want like the quick 80% of the time, I would say yes, it becomes a different solution. It's again, like the reason I would argue that it would be the same solution is if the same people are dealing with it once it becomes a project. But in most companies I know, it actually gets moved to a different department. This is, let's say, the sales stage, right? So this is from the sales department. And then the project department already becomes a separate department. And so my, again, 80-20 rule would be 80% of the time, different solution. I'm sure I can come up with 20% of arguments.
Yeah, Jonathan is saying that along the lines you were saying before, projects have their own custom fields, and so they should definitely be in a different app.
There you go.
Okay, excellent. Well,
you guys, whoever that was can give the next webinar. Good job.
Yeah, see, I was listening to you. Very helpful and very valuable. Thank you so much for covering hierarchies. And everyone here, please stay tuned and prepare your questions. I know there's been a lot of questions that have been answered by the SmartSuite team via text, but we're going to bring up all those questions live so that we can add additional context, get Jon and Kaya's opinion. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jon to share some very exciting product updates and a live demo of SmartSuite.
All right, let me share my screen here. So let me first say that I'd like to start off by maybe focusing to make sure that everybody is aware of the SmartSuite product roadmap. So we have a customer-inspired roadmap that allows you to come in and actually request features. It allows people to then, I'm going to click into this time tracking log. It allows people to request features. It then allows our product team and design team to actually communicate back with you to show you different design options that we're considering as we go through the process for a feature that's there. It allows other people to then comment on these features, thumbs up, thumbs down, or actual comments, and you can actually vote on things. When you vote or comment on a feature, we auto track you so that anytime there's an update to this feature, we say that maybe it's moved from planning to in development or development to complete, you will be auto notified. So you can see a listing of the people for this particular item that's in the roadmap. Avi or Nate, if someone could throw an example or throw a link to the product roadmap in the chat for everybody to see this. You can get to the product roadmap as well from the home page of SmartSuite, and in the left-hand column, it will actually show the roadmap as well. And you'll be able to then sort information based on what's trending, what's new that's coming in. And you can also filter by, I just want to see everything that's in process right now. And this is what our development team is working on currently. So I'm going to focus on many of these items very quickly. There's too many for us to go through to cover everything. So this is the best place for you to get a really good understanding by sorting by what's in process of what we're working on currently. So I'm going to flip over here. And this is just a sample solution that we have for me to kind of dive into. I'm going to start with permissioning. This is probably the number one request that we've had for quite some time, is to add additional permission levels. So right now we provide, and this is actually live, I'm showing you live now. We provide full access to content, which is the default when you add somebody with advanced, which means that they have the ability to view all content that's actually in the app that you're looking at right now. In this case, the BCDR plans that are there. You can also limit that down by editor, meaning that people can create and edit their own content, but can only view other content that's there. We can take it down one step further where to a contributor role where people can create content and edit content that they've been assigned, but they can view all other content. So if you want things to move in and out based on an assignment, but to have the person to see everything, the contributor role is what's typically used for that. The next two are the two new roles that we added, the assignee role. This is great for when you have relationships with clients and they need to, maybe you have multiple clients logging into your instance of SmartSuite and viewing content maybe in regards to projects, but you want to limit what they see to just their information for that client. So in this case, you can, when you add an assignee field, they can view and edit content that they've been assigned, but they cannot create, view, or edit any other content. So any other content that they're not assigned to that might be related to other customers that you have would just go away. They'll never even know that's there. This is one of the top requested features that we've had here in the last couple of months. This next level down, commenter, is one step above a viewer level permission. Viewer level means that somebody can only view content, but they have no rights to edit or to add comments. The commenter role allows them to still have only view level access, but now they can actually participate in comments inside of that record. So they can view comments that are there, reply to comments, or add new comments themselves. So these are the two new ones. In the future, we've built the architecture for this, and we'll be adding this probably towards the end of the first quarter. You'll have the ability to create your own role. So we'll give you a page that you can pull up and you can say what level you want this particular role to have across all of these items with assignments, different things they can view, give it the role a name, and then you'll be able to assign the role specifically to people that are here. The next item I want to talk about is a new role type when you actually invite members called guest. A guest role allows you to have people come into your account for free, meaning that they will only have view level access, plus they can comment on records for any solution that you assign them to, but you're not charged for this level of user inside of your account. Right now, this number is unlimited for all of our current customers. So we don't care if you have 10 or 100, 200 guests that actually come in based on your plan type. And then you have the ability at some point to actually change their level of access. And when you change that outside of the guest, then that's when you would be billed for that particular person if needed. So this particular request is also coming from a lot of agencies, professional services firms that need to have clients come in and see information maybe specific to a project that you're working on for them. You don't want to pay for that, and they don't need access to actually edit content. It's more of they just need to be able to view information that's taking place. These roles that I've talked about, I was showing you that at the solution level here, you have the same roles available inside of application as well. That's there. One of the more common requested features that I'm actually getting a demo from our internal team on right after this meeting today is field level permissions. So you'll be able to go in at the field level, whether you're clicking into this menu here or actually drilling into a record. And I could go in here and there'll be an entry that says field level permission, and I can set permissions on this particular field. There's two levels of permissions that have been completed here. One is view level permission. So you could say that I don't want a person to even see this status field that's here. The second level is you can determine if they can edit the content that's here. So maybe they have full access to all of the records and content, but this particular field you want to make read-only for this particular group of users. This is in QA right now. I get the demo today. We're within a week of actually releasing this live to everyone that's here. Next feature I wanted to talk about is automations, which is, again, one of our most requested features. There's a couple of enhancements that we've done here that I just want to highlight. The first one, we have a trigger type of add a scheduled time. This trigger type has been enhanced since we released it about 4 or 5 weeks ago to include some additional options, both at the week and the month level. So now I can come in and actually set an automation to run, and maybe I want it to run on the 1st, the 15th, and the 30th of the month. So instead of creating 3 automations, you can just select when you want this to run that's in here. Or maybe you want things to run just on the last day of the month. So I'll turn these off. And on the last day of each month at this particular time, I could have that automation run. Do the same thing for days and weeks as well. That's in there. So just a quick one. This week, we've also released a few additional automation actions. So now Outlook is now available to actually send emails from your Outlook account. Google Calendar is available where we can send information to Google Calendar from inside of a record, and Google Sheets where we can actually add rows to Google Sheets that are there. We have a lot more that are in the hopper right now that are in different levels of approval. And I wanted to show you this list that's here. That's a draft list. All of these are complete. They're in testing or they're in approval processes from the companies that we've integrated with. So you can see the list. I'll just run through it real quick with Salesforce, Intercom, Microsoft Teams, Google Drive, HubSpot. And if you additional ones, you can kind of look inside of the roadmap and see what's scheduled and vote on things, but we can look at the roadmap to understand the volume of people asking for different integrations here. And that's how we choose what's next that's there. What's coming here for all of those that I just mentioned is each of those will be listed as an action type as well as a trigger, up here in the triggers. So you'll be able to watch and see when something happens in Google Drive or in Outlook. Maybe you in Outlook, when an email comes in that meets these requirements or in this folder, you want to take that information and bring it directly into SmartSuite. So all of those that I just showed you below will be added as triggers, including Salesforce, Intercom, HubSpot as well. We also have a new action type. This is probably the single biggest request that we have on automations. This allows you to actually go in and find records inside of let's say you're adding an action, adding a trigger, and then you want the action to go find records, and then you want to use the result of that find to maybe update or create a new record that's in there. So the find feature allows you to set the criteria and the conditions for what you want to find. And then you can use that find when you're actually creating a new record that's there. So this feature, the first part of this feature is done. We're putting the finishing touches on the conditions this week. It's already in testing. So we're within a week to a week and a half of release of the beta release. It's in alpha for people right now to make this available for everyone to use inside of your account as well. We're also in the final stages of releasing our make.com connector. All of the actions are done. They're being tested by a select group of customers right now. If you have an interest in being a part of that group, you can just reach out to us through Intercom just by clicking down here at the bottom here, opening up and letting our team know that you're interested in that. And then the trigger portion, there's a bug in make.com that they're addressing, that we can't release the triggers until they address that bug, but we're told that it could be any day now. So we're hoping that we'll make available towards the end of this week or Monday, Tuesday of next week in beta for everyone once that bug is fixed by them. I also wanted to just show you a couple of quick things with member directory. Let me flip over here where I've got some data. So a member directory shows everyone that's in your account and allows each person in your account to set up profile information and share that with other people. And there's all kinds of different reports where you can come in and see people by department, location, by role, status, team, just make things super easy. We've had the request to allow you to have more control over what is actually displayed in this, especially when you have clients that are logging in and you don't want them to see maybe one client to see the next client that's in there. Maybe they just see anybody that's on their team. So we added the ability to filter this down by team. So any team that this member is a part of will actually show the listing of those members here. So if you had client ABC and you just wanted the 4 people from the client and your internal team to show up here and them not to see client B, you would select by team. You can do the same thing by email domain. In some cases, that's easier. So if we just look at the domain of the user's login email and we limit them to see only other people that have that domain that's there. So the default hasn't changed. You can see everyone, but if you want to break this down further, just to limit the information, especially if you have clients, you can click here to do that. We have a couple of other just quick items that I'll tell you that are in process. I get a demo of this in just a few minutes as well, which is the ability to actually add folders inside of your view types that are here. We're probably 2 weeks away, possibly a week away from feeling comfortable to release this feature to everybody, but you'll be able to add unlimited folders and then group all of your views inside of those folders that are there. The next item I'll talk about is something that's rising pretty quickly from customer requests. You can see we have 35 customers and counting that are asking for the ability to send and receive emails inside of a record. So if I go here, I open up comments. Right now I can add comments. The request is to also have the ability, instead of just adding a comment, is to actually create an email, send it from this record, have it displayed here, be able to say when this particular item is closed or resolved. But as people reply to that email, the replies would come back and attach as replies here, in addition to your regular email box that you have there. This is the actual request that's come in. You can see the information that's here. I just wanted to draw your attention that we're making some final decisions on the options for how we display this information. If you have an interest in this field type, please look at this particular feature request. And in this case, you can see where we show design options and ask questions about different ways that we may display the information that's here. You don't have to, but I just want you to know that's available if you have an interest in this particular field type. And you can also see comments from other customers that are providing their thoughts on how they would want to use this type of feature as well. And then the last item that I'll mention here is Web Clipper. This one has come up quite a bit just in the last week. We have an alpha implementation of a Web Clipper that is available. If you are interested and need to use that type of functionality, Pete provided an overview of how you can download this from the Chrome store. Right now it's just available in Chrome. And what it allows you to do is pull content from web pages that you're viewing in real time and have that data map in from the website directly into a record inside of SmartSuite in real time. So you could just be on the page, click at the top of your browser on a button and tell it to come in. You can map the fields of what content you want to go into each particular field in the record that you have. So you can see the comments and the people that requested that here. I tried to do that pretty quickly. There's a lot more that the team is working on. So please come to the roadmap if you have an interest. This page designer is just absolutely outstanding. We're really close on releasing that. Some new integration types. You can see all the ones that are here. The ability to cut and paste content, rows of content into a grid view at a single time we're in the last 80% of finishing that up. But this list here is everything that's currently in process by the team. And with that, Avi, I will stop sharing and turn things back over to you, and we can go through some questions.
Wow. That's all I can say is wow. I want to hear from everyone here. What is your favorite product update that came? Is it permissions? Is it guests? Is it integrations? What is it? That was just wow. I'm so excited to see all that. Okay, I see it's rolling in faster than I can read. Guests, field lock, guests, field level permission, integration, make.com, folders of use, permissions, guest permissions, guests. I love SmartSuite, integrations, field level permissions. Wow, look at that. Everyone has their own favorite feature, but we're trying to satisfy everyone. Guests. Okay, so before we dive into questions, we're going to be taking a ton of questions live. We will stay over time if needed, depending on the volume of questions that are coming in. I am having a ton of fun here. I want to know in the chat who else is having fun. Please throw in, give some love to Jon and Chaya for such an awesome webinar. And we're going to jump into questions. I just want to remind everyone before we jump into questions, we have a very large turnout over here. People already took advantage of the offer of 15% off of your first year subscription from SmartSuite. If you haven't yet, go ahead and do that now. The coupon code you put in should be Skive webinar 15 for 15% discount. Go ahead and take advantage of that now. And
Hey, Avi.
Yep.
I saw one of the questions that just came in and I failed to actually show something. I'll answer that in real time. We have the ability currently that if you are inside of a solution, you have the ability to duplicate that solution. And you can see here that we have the ability that we've set the stage for you to pick the account that you want to duplicate that to. The second part of this feature is being finished right now. It could be as soon as a week. We're really close on releasing this. So if you have access to more than one account, it will show in this listing and you'll be able to then take this solution, make a copy of this solution in another, what I'm calling an account is a workspace, another workspace that you have access to. there's a second part of this as well that will be released at the same time, which will be the ability to actually share this entire solution in a read-only state, where somebody then on the web can just click a link and see all of the content that you've made available here. You can choose if they can drill into records or just see the views that you have here. But inside of that, they'll also have a copy button. If you turn that on, that will allow them to copy the structure and or the data. So it depends on if you are going to allow them to do either of those if you share. But if you say copy data and copy structure, they will then be able to click here. It will pull up a screen that shows all of the accounts that person has access to. They can then select the one that they want to copy the solution into that's there. So there'll be two ways. I just want to say both from the duplicate solution piece, and then also if you've shared a solution, you'll be able to copy that if you've made that available. So sorry I missed that, Avi. I'll turn it back over to you.
No, absolutely. That's also an exciting feature. I love that feature too. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to dive into questions. I just want to remind everyone that Chaya at Skive has graciously gave us this webinar to talk about hierarchy. Hopefully you realized her expertise. If you want to use Chaya or Skive for consulting on how to implement SmartSuite, along with other related no-code tools into your organization, feel free to email her at info@skive.co. She is doing excellent work. And like Jon said, hundreds of implementations. So go ahead and contact her if you need some extra consulting hours to implement SmartSuite. And so the questions are just coming in here faster than I can read. And so I'm going to do my best to go through them and share questions with Chaya and Jon based on the question. If I do miss out on any questions, please help me and throw it back in there so I can make sure to get to everything. And so the first question we're going to see here is coming in from Sam. Sam is asking, is there any option to create reports like HubSpot reporting? Chaya, do you want to take that question?
Okay, so is there any option to create reports? Yes, there's absolutely ways to create reports. I will say, like I said at the beginning, we're partners with many other similar softwares to SmartSuite. And what I have found is that SmartSuite's dashboards and reporting are able to do much more and get what people want more often than the others. Yes, there are some times that other platforms are going to do a very specific niche thing you're looking for, but as a whole, I have found that people are a lot happier with SmartSuite's dashboards. With that being said, yes, you can create reports. I can't promise that you can create every single report that you can create in HubSpot. Like, I'm not that HubSpot expert. I don't know all the reports in HubSpot, but it's definitely possible. I would say for sure 80% of them, if not more. And I see Jon's here ready to share with us the dashboard widgets.
Yeah, I just wanted to share our approach to dashboards with everyone so that you understand. A dashboard to us is just a collection of what we call widgets or blocks, is what some people call them. So you can see all the different types of things that you can pull data in from. What's a little unique about SmartSuite is that you have the ability to pull data in a dashboard from any app and any solution that you have access to. So you're not just limited to, like in this case, I'm looking at business continuity plans. I could be pulling sales data or marketing data into a dashboard that's here. So there's no limitations on where you can pull data from. We're also continually adding new widget types for things that customers need to embed inside of dashboards, like just conferencing things like Google Meet and Zoom. We have quite a number of people that use Figma and InVision from a design standpoint. So it actually brings your view, let's say, of Figma and the designs that your team is doing directly into a widget. You can size that widget however you want in the dashboard, Google Docs, Sheets, Slides. We're doing some fun stuff with embedding basically any website page, any web page can be embedded inside of a view. So if you're using data from Salesforce and HubSpot and maybe Zendesk, that's just a view, you can actually embed that in as a widget and see all of that in one place. So I won't go through all these, but you can see the list that's here, and this list will continue to grow as you have more information that you're wanting to display in dashboards.
Excellent. Thank you, Jon. Chaya is asking, just as a follow-up to that, are there any dashboard templates?
There are templates inside of our solution templates that we make available when you're setting things up. We have about 200 templates. We don't have a specific style of template that you can just select. That is it wouldn't be that difficult to do, to add that as a template type. So it's something we can think about for sure.
Awesome. Okay. Jon, Doug is asking, need field text to have a way on the mobile app to start and stop timers for an app entry. Example, time on work orders for billing purposes.
Yes, that was another one I probably should have mentioned in the update that's there. It's actually in testing. It is very cool. With our time tracking log field type, you have the ability to enter time, exact time or duration of time that's in. We've added the ability to have an auto timer associated with that. So as you're in a record or you're in a view that has the time log field available in the view, you can just click on start timer. We start tracking the time, and then it also displays at the bottom of your page. So if you click out of that record and you're working in other places, you can still see that the timer is running. You could turn it on and off in the footer of the page or inside of the record itself. That's part of the update that we're doing here. In just a few minutes, I'll see the current implementation. If I sign off on that we're good, that means that it will be available to everyone within the week.
Okay, awesome. Tom has a question. Can I have multiple expand record forms in one app? Or ideally, can I use an existing form in an app to view an existing record instead of just using forms to submit a record?
Yes, I think I understand what you're asking for is the ability to create a form and have that form maybe shared with somebody outside of your organization that includes data from a record that they could then update. And when the update is made and they submit, it would then update the information back inside of SmartSuite. This particular feature is in process. I don't have a particular time frame yet on that. We probably will in about a week and a half, but it's a highly requested feature for clients like with things like contacts, where once a year you want to send a link to a form and allow a customer to validate the information that's there in their contact. We have the same thing for people with different types of risk assessments that need to be performed maybe quarterly or annually. It will solve that problem as well. The way that will be accessed is through the new field type called button field type that allows you to add a button to a form, and then you can include the text to actually include the form and the data. You just click the button and it will send an email to the customer requesting an update.
Chaya, I have a question for you. Our workspace is one per license. Also, I'm a freelancer running my business on SmartSuite and want to set up a client on SmartSuite to run theirs. Should I get them to share a workspace to me and I can see their business in my SmartSuite? What's the best way to kind of, first of all, how's workspace billing work? And second of all, I guess, what's the best way to incorporate clients into SmartSuite?
Yeah, so I believe billing is per workspace. So if you are paying for one workspace and you need a second workspace, you're going to pay a second time for however many users are in there. John, is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. What I'm showing here is that if you've been invited to more than one workspace on your homepage, you can click right here. You'll see a down arrow. And when you open that up, you'll see each of the different workspaces that you have access to that you can click into. And then in that workspace, you'll have the level of permissions that have been granted you in that particular workspace. So you could be a guest user in some workspaces, have admin rights in some, creator rights in some that are there. And that's what's typical. If a customer has information that they want to share with you, they can make you a guest and there's no charge for you to view that information. But if you want to update information that's actually in their account, they just need to make you a regular user.
Okay, Mark is asking, with the new permissions available, I'm losing the question. If with the new permissions available, do you have the ability to generate a report that shows who has access to what and at what level? John?
We show that by person and we show that by solution. We don't have a single report that shows. I think what you're asking is one report that shows each person in the report and each of the solutions they have access to. No, we don't have that, but that's something that we could do very easily. Yeah, we have all the data. We just need to make it available in a view type.
Okay, this is not a question, but maybe John, you want to expand on this. I'm finding this comment funny. So I would tattoo SmartSuite if you make the Kanban boards as smooth as Trello on the mobile version.
Let me say one thing about that. So we use a library on mobile that is one of the leading libraries for Kanban, and we are not happy with that at all. We understand that. We are redoing, it's a public library that we've contributed to even make it better, and we're still not happy with how that it works. So we're switching out the library that we're using for Kanban on mobile as fast as we can. We have a team working on it right now. And our goal is to do exactly what you said. We want it to be as smooth as 12 on mobile with just dragging, dropping, moving things around. We
Okay.
understand.
Thank you, John. Kaya, Michael is asking, SmartSuite is adding automation features, and I love the idea of using Make and Zapier to fill the gaps. How comfortable are businesses moving their data through another tool?
Okay, it's a great question. I would say that if you have highly secure information, health information, if you're a healthcare company and you have people's personal health information, I suppose if you have like banking information, those are data that I have found health is there's legalities associated with it as well. But I find that people are not comfortable moving those through something like Make or Zapier. For other types of data, many companies do it and use it. We do it for many clients. I would say you really have to evaluate the sensitivity of your data and make a decision based on that. I would say like health records and financial data, they're not a choice for that. And everything else is really based on your risk level. You have to make that own assessment. I will tell you that most clients are fine with that.
Sounds good. So I guess for clients that need HIPAA, they really need to use SmartSuite internal action. Okay, John, David is asking regarding guests, Monday.com also offers guest licenses, but in their case, guests can add, edit, delete, and collaborate on a record in an app. SmartSuite offer this also in the near future.
We won't offer that as part of the guest role that I announced, but what we are working on is the ability to create like a client or vendor portal that will allow you to take data from SmartSuite, display that in more of a web portal type of view that's like a website that is customizable, that will allow for those features that you're talking about. We are working with some of the leading providers right now of those like software that's there. They have said that their integration with SmartSuite will happen in the first quarter of this year. We've not been so lucky with Stacker. They've pushed things out about a year. They're waiting to hear from customers to see if it's a feature that if they would add SmartSuite as a data source. And we are also starting a venture with a new company that is adding SmartSuite as the core data source that's there. And that work starts in about 2 weeks, just right at the end of this year. And they think that they'll have version 1 complete by the end of the quarter. That particular software and those 2 products will allow everything that you're talking about here. There will be a fee from them associated with that, but it goes into it's $20 for 100 users. Like it's pretty cheap and goes up, it scales really nicely. So typically the price is not going to be an issue with those types of products.
Okay, excellent. John, we're getting a few questions about storage, so I'm going to loop them in together. Where are attachments stored? AWS? And then we're getting another question from Andreas saying, any plans to implement data residency in the EU?
Yeah, so the attachments, we use AWS as our hosting infrastructure. It gives us a lot of flexibility from a risk and compliance perspective. All of our data is encrypted, and the way that we do things as it goes back and forth between browser and AWS. The EU question came up to us for the first time 3 or 4 weeks ago. It is available, and we are looking at how we would be able to set particular customers up in an infrastructure, an AWS environment that's based in Europe that would solve that particular problem that's there. I'm not ready to make any announcements yet, but if you give us maybe a couple of weeks, we need to figure out how we operationally would do that. It's not a problem with AWS. It's with how we would allow you as a customer to be hosted in that environment versus the US environment that we have now.
Okay. John, another question for you. Will the document builder support video, embed a video online in the document builder?
I haven't had that request before. I need to get back to you. I can get back to you today on that. It may be that what we've already built with links that you add will support that when you generate a PDF. I need to validate that.
Adam is asking, can you talk about some examples on how you can manage finances with SmartSuite? Kai, do you want to take that?
Okay, I really do need more clarity to answer that. Are you talking about a customer's finances? Are you talking about, we've done, let's say, for a lot of clients, they are a product-based business and they want to see how much should they pay for each item? How much are they selling it to the client for? How many did they sell? And what was their profit on it? So that is definitely one way that you can absolutely track finances. If you're talking about just like tracking general finances of your company, like how much is this clarification? Expense reports submitted to accountants, downloaded CSV, with attachments to QuickBooks. So what I understand is that we are talking about like company finances. And yes, and I know John just announced the QuickBooks integration coming, and I think that will be very useful in being able, we use QuickBooks internally at Skive. And I know that, yes, you can pull reports, but it's definitely not as flexible as SmartSuite is. And sometimes I get so annoyed. I'm like, you have all the records, right, of all my transactions. You have all the custom fields, right? We're typing it by category. Like, why can't I like filter and group in different ways? And so, yes, it's possible. I think that integration can definitely help with it. And if you have a more specific, like an even more specific question about how to track financial data, I'd be happy to answer that now or another time.
Okay, excellent.
I agree with you, Adam, that SmartSuite's fun to use and QuickBooks is not.
Yep. Okay, let's run through. I think we have a few more questions. How close is the ability to import CSV file and create a new table from it, including the field names? John?
Yeah, we're very close on this. So we have a new importer. It's actually in alpha right now. If you are interested in having this feature added into your account, just notify us through Intercom. When things are in alpha, it means that they're not production ready, and we're working with select customers to just test along with our internal QA team at that point. So know that things are buggy that when at the alpha stage. So if you don't want to see buggy as you're importing data using the new importer, this isn't for you. This new importer, if you do want to be part of the alpha, you still get the old import feature and you get the new one that you can test along with it that's there. This feature will allow you to bring in up to 50,000 rows of content very quickly. Inside, it also has much improved error and validation messaging that's there. So you can correct an error in one place and tell it to correct that error in every other place that it found exactly the same thing. So it's much more efficient for you to clean up bad data that's in. And then it also includes the ability to auto create fields. So in your import, if you include 20 fields and you only have 2 fields in the app that's there, it's smart enough to look at the data in the column, make its best guess on the field type. It will then import the data with the field types. And you also have if you didn't like the guess that we make on the field type, you can change that field type before the import actually happens. This entire feature will be available to everybody probably the last week of December of this year. So we'll move into beta in about a week and a half and be available, and then full production in 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, excellent. John, I have another question for you coming in. I need to display the first item of a sub item into another field type formula. For example, on how LinkedIn displays the experience, I'll add the experience and display the current job in another field.
So basically want to do a lookup from a sub item,
or add a field from the sub item into the parent formula.
Okay. Yes, we're in the middle of upgrading the architecture for sub items to be just a linked record behind the scenes. So all the functionality that you have with current linked records will be available for sub items. Will be no difference that's there. I don't have a good date today to tell you when that will be available, but if you're interested, reach out to us at Intercom. I'll probably know by Monday or Tuesday of next week where I could give you a better indication of how quickly that's going to be available.
Okay, excellent. John, we have a question from Sam. Is it possible to create a two-way sync between 2 apps?
We don't currently provide sync. There's 2 things you can do. You can use Zapier or Make to make that happen. We are also looking at, this is a request that just came in the last 3 or 4 weeks, to add an action type that allows you to sync data between apps in SmartSuite, but also sync data in other workspaces that have apps in SmartSuite that's there. Just like you would go and pick like your Salesforce account and you pick which account to send the data to, you would be able to see all the accounts that you have access to, all the workspaces in SmartSuite, and then map that data to sync between, maybe if you're a professional services firm, maybe work that you're doing at a client and you want to send tasks down to them. We'll have an action that will allow you to do that both internal to SmartSuite and external that's there. I don't have a hard date on that particular feature yet. It's just in the initial stages of that. But again, reach out to us at Intercom. I'll probably know on that. I probably need a week and a half to be able to finalize everything to give you a solid date on when that would be available.
Okay. John, Adam is saying I'm craving right-clicking fields, columns to modify /delete.
Yeah, it's funny. It depends on kind of the products that you've used in the past that have those features that's there. That is actually on the roadmap. You'll see that if you look at the public roadmap, there's a part of that's in development currently. So you'll be able to right click into any cell into a grid and see the same options that you see under bulk options. If you just click it and select multiple records and we show the bulk actions bar at the bottom, those will be individual by cell as well.
Okay, I'm just reviewing the history of the chat over here. So Oscar is asking, is it possible to provide access only to a view? The way we can share it with users, that way we can share with users that only need to view, update certain info without them being able to view the rest of the records. The other issue would be for them not to be able to open the register and view the record and view all the fields. Kaya, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so that's a pretty simple yes answer, that you can set up a view, which I love. Like I said, this is something I love about SmartSuite that it definitely outdoes the competitors on. We can permission views. I've never seen it anywhere else where you can set a permissioning level on, you just want them to be able to see the custom fields there. You can't open the records. You can't see anything else. I find it phenomenal. And so the answers to all your questions are yes, and John can show it to us how it works.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a number of ways to do what you just said. Permissioning is one that we just built in that Kai was talking about. If you want to share it externally, you can just click share view, and this will actually create a version of this, all the information that you've shared here, and it will provide a link that when the person clicks on the link, I'll just preview what they see here. It will show them all of this data here. So you can share this outside of the organization if you'd want to. And what's coming is you'll have the ability to determine if they can click and actually see the record with all the fields associated with this, or they're just limited to what you have in the view type that's here. The part of what I think you're asking for is something that's been requested that we're thinking about right now, which is when you create a view right now, I can say that this view is public, but maybe I want to go in and say that only John and Avi have access to this view type. And the reason for that is maybe you have 100 views, larger companies, and you only want managers and above to see certain reports just to make things easier for general users. Just know that's a feature that will be coming in the future to allow you to select the specific people or teams that would have access to this view that's here.
Okay. Adam is saying, I picture SmartSuite opening SmartSuites and selling no-code chocolates.
I would be a fan of that, yeah.
Okay, I see we have questions. Are there plans for a SmartSuite mobile app to work offline? John, do you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah. So we've built the architecture of the mobile app. It's actually a database that holds the information and then it syncs as you log in each time. That's how to make things more performant. So the first part of what you're asking for has been completed with the architecture. The second phase that we haven't started just yet is to do what you're talking about, which is when you're not connected in real time through Wi-Fi or cellular, you can still work in the app for everything that's been downloaded there. And then once you do connect, it will sync information back and forth. We're not there yet, but we've done the first part that allows us to move that direction.
Okay, excellent. Kaya, Candace is asking, is it possible to assign a task to multiple team members?
And I think there's even a way to say that it can't or that it can. You can toggle that because sometimes you don't want it to be assigned to multiple. And so that you can actually toggle that off, but otherwise you can leave that toggled on and absolutely you can assign it to multiple people.
Okay, I see we have a whole bunch. Oh, John, you were going to show that.
I'm just showing this as Kai was talking. So with any assign to field, you can pick if you want it assigned to a single member, or if you want to allow multiple assignments to happen. You can also pick the display type if you want just the avatar. A lot of times when you do multiple assignments, people like to do the avatar display that's there. And then you can also pick to determine if this shows up in my work, meaning that when people would come up here to see a list of, I'm not going to save it, but to see a list of all the things that are assigned to them. Do you actually want this to show up in the My Work panel, or is this just, it's not really an assignment, it's just you're linking somebody to that. So you have both options.
Okay, excellent. John, we have a question from Stephen. Will the Zapier integration be updated especially for supporting the full name field?
It will, yes. Man, I need to check. That may have just been released in the last few days. I'll go check and let you know for sure.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna run through a few comments while we were talking about integrations. We have suggestions for Pipedrive CRM as an action. HubSpot integration will make.
I'll vote for Pipedrive and HubSpot.
Okay, there we go. I see a comment from Sam saying HubSpot integration will make SmartSuite exponentially more powerful. A ton of questions. I think we addressed this, but I see a ton of questions about QuickBooks Online. Seems like we have very strong support for that. SmartSuite mobile offline, John addressed. We have a question over here that I think John answered. Also, when will automation with make.com go live? I think we talked about that. That's coming very soon. We have a question for would be a comment. Would be great to integrate natively with Xero and FreshBooks.
So Xero is on the list that we have already. FreshBooks is not. I don't think that's on the top 20 that we're working on.
Okay, see a comment over here asking for Wave Accounting.
Is
Okay,
that products?
yeah, that's a
Wave
product. Wave Accounting is a new competitor for QuickBooks, a new kid on the block, but a lot of people are actually enjoying that product.
People like it because it has a free level.
Oh, there you go.
But I don't know that accountants love it so much. Like, you'd have to look into the user base to see if it was a good fit.
Yeah, I think that's not on our, that's the first I'm hearing of this. It's not on our roadmap, but it may be something that's already supported with Zapier and Make, that if you were wanting to bring data in, those two products are really simple, like 15, 20 minutes to set up a Zap to bring data in or data out of SmartSuite.
Okay, I see David is saying, I think Zoho has more users than Pipedrive and HubSpot combined. I suggest SmartSuite to consider this.
Yeah, that one is on the planning list already. So quite a number of people have asked for that, mainly outside of the US, which is interesting.
Excellent. Adam is asking, John, this is probably for you. When will the annual SmartSuite convention start? I'm ready to go and party. Let's do this. SmartCon 2023.
Yeah, know that Tara and I have a background. Tara, my wife, also a co-founder of SmartSuite, started a company called Archer Technologies. We started a user group in the second year of that then grew into thousands of people that meet around the world every year. They have a big 3.5-day conference. It was the highlight of the year at Archer for us. We're going to be doing the same thing at SmartSuite. So as soon as we get a little more volume where we can then have enough people to make that very interesting in a particular location, both in the US and then a location outside of the US, we'll be announcing that. But that's part of what we want to do through the user community.
Okay, John, we have two questions on integrations. Oscar is asking, do you have an estimate on when automations will be able to be duplicated? And Mark is asking, how close are the implementation of buttons?
I need to check on the duplicate automation feature. It's been in development. I just need to see exactly where that's at and I can let you know. It may already be done and I just don't know it. So let me get back to you on that. The second one was, what was the second part of that, Bobby?
How close are the implementation of buttons?
Oh, button field type. We're super close on button. The release date that we're shooting for is December the 6th, which is, I guess, just a week away. I think it's next Friday. There'll be two phases to button. The first part is you'll just be able to add links and add scripts in to do some fun things. The second part of buttons that's coming is you'll be able to link a button to an actual automation action that you want to be performed that can include multiple things that could be linked together. So it's going to be very powerful once we add that linkage as well.
Okay, excellent. Well, I see we're coming up on an extra half an hour of the webinar. We have a ton more comments. If it's okay with John and Chaya, I think what we're going to do is we'll go for an extra 10 to 15 minutes to try to run through rapid fire the rest of the comments, because we're going to try to have a no comments or questions left behind policy. That being said, those of you who, if it's running into other schedules, please feel free to hop off. I want to thank Chaya and John again for hosting this awesome webinar. Super engaged and large crowd, and hopefully we can do more of these in the future. Without further ado, I'm going to continue running through a few quick questions. John Connard is asking, if I sign up today on a monthly plan, then I added 3 users tomorrow, will the 3 additional users have the discounted price?
They will, yes. It's good for 1 year.
Okay, excellent. Let's see. Any plans to enhance the current CRMs to fully functional CRMs? Question by Noel, I think. I see you're smiling. Do you want to expand a little bit on what that means, fully functional CRMs?
Yeah, it's a good question and very highly debated. So I'll try and keep this short because I can probably talk about another hour on this. CRMs that are built as CRM, what they do is their UI is built in a way that it's easy to use as a CRM. In addition, there are automations that automatically happen that make them a lot easier to use. For example, when a content, first of all, integration with your email, that any email you send gets added as a contact. Any email you send gets added to their, I guess, comments with all the emails you've ever sent for them. As soon as a contact's created, it pulls their domain name and creates a company. It links that person to that company. Any additional people who you email with the same domain name are now attached to the same company. And then when you open deals, you can choose to pull in certain emails from certain of the users or companies' notes or emails or whatever it is into that deal. Now, I believe that people who have low volume leads coming in, something like SmartSuite works amazing for that. Someone who has 100 new leads coming in a day, we still need some work. John, you can take over from there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, as you're talking, the email feature that I mentioned before, you kind of see the link that's up here for being able to send and receive emails from SmartSuite. One of the options that we've presented, I think we call this option C, includes this as a field type, which is more of a communication center that allows you to not just send in and receive emails like I'm showing here, but log calls and meetings, add notes, and then your activity is a summary of everything that's here. For people using CRMs, this has been the bigger request on the emails is to make it much broader than just email that's there. So if you're interested in that concept, I would say, I'd love your feedback if you'd come into this particular request and look at the three options that we provide. What we're thinking is going to happen is that we actually provide two implementations of this, the ability to send and receive emails directly in the comments panel, but also looking at adding a field type that's more of the communications center, like I was talking about, that includes much more than just email for the CRM people that's there. And then the second part I'll just say is our CRM solution will include the automations, like Kai was saying, that auto link things together based on maybe the domain of the email that will be built directly in to support what you would see in Pipedrive or another CRM type product.
I love that. I love those features. Ben says, I want to commend SmartSuite for their underlying architecture must be brilliantly designed. They're so swift with new functionality. The depths of permission functionality is really impressive, etc. Other vendors must be horrified. Go SmartSuite.
Yeah, let me just share a little bit about that. I can't personally take credit for that, although I try sometimes. Our CTO, Pete Novosel, is the brains behind the overall architecture with a number of our leads. And what we did at SmartSuite that's a little different is we spent 2.5 years to build the core product before we released it to even a single customer or even made an announcement of what we were doing. And the reason for that was we wanted to get the architecture right, that when we build things on top of it in the future, makes things more efficient. What typically happens with startups is if we release this 6 months in, you would be coming to us with a bunch of feature requests that we would want to respond to, and we would build those on top of a not completed architecture. And over time, it would become hard to manage. Things would get slow, not be as stable. So that's when we spent so much time, 2.5 years to build the core platform, was to be able to respond to requests like this quicker.
Okay, excellent. John, we have a request over here to have progress bars for sub items similar to checklists based on status and field type.
Okay, I'm not aware that we've had that request from anybody else yet in the product roadmap, but I think if one of our team members can get that in and associate that with who is asking for it, we'll start tracking that. It's not a huge deal. We just haven't had that request prior that I know of.
Okay, sounds good. I think we're coming to the end of this. There was a lot of questions today. So I want to thank John and Kai again for hosting this wonderful webinar, and hope to see everyone on the next webinar. We have quite a number of people who even stayed an hour and a half later. Okay, send some love in the chat as we shut this webinar down, and we'd love to see you in Intercom. Send us your questions. You can reach out to Chaya, info@skive.co. That's info@skive.co. Reach out to SmartSuite at info@SmartSuite. Reach us in the chat, in the Intercom. See you on the product roadmap. Tell us what your favorite features are. Go check out the features and upvote them. and see you in the next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, thanks,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you, Avi and John.